Welcome to episode 24 of Angela Watson's Truth for Teachers. I'm your host, Angela Watson, and I'm here to speak life, encouragement, and truth into the minds and hearts of educators and get you energized for the week ahead. Today I'm going to share some thoughts on my first season of podcasting. Visit truthforteachers.com to get the transcript, links to recommended resources, and to share your thoughts on the show. So, here we are at the end of season 1 of the podcast. I can't believe it. It's been 5 months since I created Truth for Teachers already. And we are at over 40,000 downloads and many tens of thousands more people who have read the transcripts on my blog rather than listen. I'm really just astounded at the reach. I had no idea if this was something that teachers would even want or something that my blog readers would be interested in. And it's exciting to me to see podcasting really taking off in education because podcasts have been so instrumental in my own life in giving me new ideas, not only for work, but spiritually and for my entrepreneurial pursuits and for lifestyle and time management. I really just think podcasts are amazing. So I'm so glad to see them being embraced on a wider scale and to see my own show embraced. I'm so grateful to those of you who have taken the time to email me or leave Facebook comments and blog comments and reviews on iTunes to let me know how the podcast has helped you. I always appreciate kind words, of course, but they were especially meaningful in relation to the podcast because this whole endeavor has been so far out of my comfort zone. I had zero experience with the technical aspects of podcasting and no expertise at all with creating any kind of talk show. And it's not even something that I had always dreamed about doing one day. I think of myself as a writer, first and foremost. And like most people, I don't really even like hearing the sound of my own voice. So for me to take this on was just definitely something that I wouldn't have even foreseen happening a year ago. But I think when you're meant to do something, you just know it. And I just knew that going down this path was the right thing. It's the same sense of knowing that I have when I'm writing a new book or pursuing any other project. Part of me is like, I can't believe that I am taking this on. I'm in way over my head. And the other part of me is like, I can't not do it. This is what I'm meant to do. So here are a couple of feedback comments that you all have shared on iTunes. And to thank you, I'm going to read a couple of them here. So there's one from a user called Wheat Thins for Life. And he or she says, I loved hearing these messages, and even better that I can fit them in on my drive to or from school. Your messages are spot on, not just shallow sound bits. They're solid thoughts and advice. I especially love you co-hosting with Dave Burgess. Keep those coming. Those are just what we need to hear. My new mantra is, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be worth it. After 11 years, I thought I was supposed to have all these things figured out. But no, I'm just doing what I need to be doing, continuing to learn and reflect on how to be better day by day. Thank you again. And I think that's so well said because I kept feeling the same way as a teacher. Like, shouldn't I know these things by now? Shouldn't this all be coming easy to me now? And no, it really doesn't. It doesn't ever really get easy. But it is worth it. Another reviewer is from JB Bookworm, who wrote, so inspired by Angela's words of wisdom. Her calm, experienced voice challenges my thinking when I get in a rut or a low point of frustration. I have soaked up every book, blog, and resource that she's created through the years. So now I'm especially thankful to take her with me on the go in a way that seems so personal. And I appreciate that because the idea of this being a personal way to connect much more so than just through words on my blog was exactly what I had in mind for this podcast. So it really makes me happy to hear that it's coming across that way to you all. And finally, I'll read this one from Super Dixie, who wrote, this podcast is so encouraging and truthful. I've been teaching for 21 years, and I have to say that Angela really understands what teachers go through and experience. The honesty and encouragement found here is refreshing. Keep the episodes coming. So thank you all for those kind words, the ones that I've read and the ones aloud and the ones that I haven't read out loud. I've read each and every single one of them. I've tried to reply to as many of them as possible. On iTunes, I can't do that, but any of them that are on my blog, I've replied to. And I just want to say thank you for that. Part of the reason why I started this podcast was for people like those of you who have commented, who have been following me online for years. And I really enjoyed the opportunity to connect in a different way and to offer you something new. So when I look back on season 1 and I try to find patterns in what resonated most with you all, it's actually kind of hard to tell because the oldest episodes always have the most views because they've been out for the longest and they've had more time for people to discover them. But I definitely see jumps in the amount of downloads for the episodes on motivating students to take charge of their learning and dealing with apathetic students. And I see jumps in the downloads that talk about dealing with negativity amongst coworkers and in schools. So those are all some issues that I want to really dig into more deeply in future episodes, and also hopefully bring in some experts on to share their experiences. One of the things, though, that really surprised me was that the episodes with guests generally have fewer downloads than the episodes that are just me talking. And I know I have awesome guests and they have super powerful messages. So I thought that was going to be a big draw. And, you guys were maybe kind of sick of hearing me talk all the time. But maybe it's more like having a substitute teacher or a guest preacher on Sundays instead of your regular pastor. And you feel like, oh, my regular routine's off. This is not who I was expecting. So I'm going to give some thought as to how I integrate guests in season 2. I still think it's important to share the platform with other people and to feature different voices on the podcast, but I want to give some thought to some other formats for that. Initially, I didn't want to do an interview because I feel like that's how so many other shows work, and I wanted to do something different. And I wanted to give people an opportunity to just speak from the heart without me interrupting them or adding in questions. But I'm totally open to trying something different. If you have an opinion on that or some ideas for how you'd like to see guests integrated on the show, or if there's someone in particular you want me to feature, please let me know. There's going to be a survey in the blog post for this episode. It'll take less than a minute to fill out, and it's probably the easiest way for you to let me know anonymously what your thoughts are on the guests and the podcast topics, the length of the show, anything else that's on your mind. In terms of direction for season 2, assuming that the survey doesn't give me a ton of feedback suggesting that I change something about the format of the show, my plan is to continue with the same general format, 10 to 15 minutes per episode, released on Sundays at 12 noon, so you can listen as you prepare for the week ahead. I keep a running list of podcast topics. Just anytime something pops in my head that I think might make a good episode, I write it down. And I already have probably about 50 or 60 possible topics listed. And I've also gotten some great topic ideas from you all that you've suggested. Many of you have sent in submissions to the Ask Angela Anything feature, where you can send in your questions anonymously via either the Google form or the SpeakPipe app. So I can't answer all the questions since I'm only doing the feature once a month, but there are some really great ones that I'm looking forward to tackling in season 2. One question that I thought was really interesting was after my dealing with negative coworkers episode, someone asked, what do you do if you are the negative coworker? So I thought that would be a really, that would be an interesting one to explore. And I also got one about what can be done to restore the respect of the American teacher. And boy, I don't even know that I know the answer to that, but I would love to talk about it. So I think that's going to be a future episode too. I want to talk about teacher observations and evaluations because I know that that is super stressful, and I want to hopefully give some advice to help you keep from losing your mind over that whole process. And I want to talk about how to be quietly subversive. So that's a phrase that I talked about in the last chapter of my new book, Unshakable. And it's this idea that when you're asked to do things that are not best for kids, you don't always have to make a huge fuss about it and protest, and let everyone know I refuse to do. Sometimes you just quietly subvert the system. And that's something that I want to talk about because I think teachers feel like everyone else is following the rules. The successful teachers they think are doing exactly what they're being told to do. And what they don't realize is that most of the best teachers are quietly going about doing what they know their kids need. So I want to talk about this quiet subversion and about how to break free from teacher guilt and how to be a change agent in your school. And I also want to talk about how to avoid information overload and how to figure out what is good enough and where you can cut corners, especially as a new teacher. That was a question that someone submitted was, how does a new teacher know when to say enough is enough? Because you just can't do everything to the standard that you want it to be during your first couple years. So these are all topics that I hope to get to in season 2. And I'm also playing around with the idea of doing more episodes on instructional strategies. So things like how to eliminate homework hassles and how to assess kids quickly and easily, how to increase student participation, and how to teach kids to work cooperatively. So those types of things, I've shied away from those kind of topics because I feel like that's more like traditional professional development. And I'm not sure if you all want to spend your weekends thinking about things like assessment and homework. So I've tried to stick more to motivational and inspirational and encouraging messages, but I'd love to know your thoughts on it. And if you'd be interested in hearing me talk about more classroom, practical classroom strategies occasionally, or if I should just confine that to my regular non-podcast blog posts, which is what I'm doing currently. So that's in the survey too. If you have an opinion on that, I'd love to hear it. So really, I'm interested in hearing from both people who subscribe and listen via iTunes and aren't regular blog readers, as well as my longtime blog readers who don't actually listen to the podcast and just read the transcripts when the blog posts get emailed out to you. So I want to hear your opinion on whether you like seeing the podcast featured on the blog. There's about 10 questions in the survey, but they're all optional. So you can just leave whatever comments you want or just check off a few boxes. Don't feel obligated to spend more than a minute or two on this. I just really thought it was important to give you a way to offer me feedback anonymously, because that is the only way that I'm going to improve, is if you all have an opportunity to speak truth, right? So I know that some of you are sad that I'm taking the summer off from regular episodes of the podcast, but I have something really awesome planned for you. I'm going to try doing a couple of bonus extended episodes where I invite guests on the show to talk really in depth about issues in education. So I want to invite, for example, some principals on the show to talk about building a positive school culture. And I want to bring in some teachers to talk about classroom management issues and how they handle typical classroom problems, those sorts of things. So I'm still brainstorming, but my vision is to have like a full 30 to 60 minute episode where I'm just tossing out questions and I'm letting experienced educators answer in a really casual and informal and hopefully really informative way for you. So be on the lookout for those this summer. I'd like to do one in June and one in July. And of course, you can also stay connected with me throughout the summer, as I'm still going to be blogging regularly. I'm still going to be creating lots of new teacher resources. In July, I'm going to be participating in 3 online events: the Teachers Leading Teachers Conference, the Unshakable Book Club, and the Awakened Devotional Bible Study for Christian teachers. These are all going to be really amazing, life-changing events. So if you haven't chosen which one to participate in, go to truthforteachers.com and click on Summer Events at the top of the page, and you can learn more about them. So, final thoughts that I want to leave you with for the summer. Some of you still have a few weeks left of school left. Here in New York City, we don't let out until the last week of June, so we're actually really nowhere near the end. If that's the case for you, hang in there and try to treasure those last few days with your students. Some of my best memories as a teacher are those final weeks of school when the testing was behind me and I stopped stressing out so much and really started focusing more on connecting with the kids. So my advice is to look forward to your summer break and create a plan for each week so that the time doesn't slip by without you taking full advantage of it. Schedule in time for relaxing and schedule in time for your family. Don't let anything interfere with that. You might not be able to create the work-life balance that you want on a daily basis, but you can do that on a seasonal basis. When you look at the year as a whole, the last 10 months, teaching has been a major priority in your life. But what about the summer? What do you want to be your priorities for the next 2 months? I mean, getting new teaching ideas, preparing for the fall is a small part of how you use your time. But be intentional. Take time for yourself and plan out time to spend with people that you care about. Your takeaway truth this week is not just for the week ahead, but for the summer ahead. And it's a quote from Richard Carlson, who said, "Ask yourself this question: will this matter a year from now? Whatever's bothering you, will it matter a year from now? Whatever you're choosing to do with your time, will it matter a year from now? Either producing something good in the world or else creating good memories. Will it matter a year from now? Thank you for giving me your time and your attention during this first season of Truth for Teachers. It has been an honor, truly, in a way that I can't even put into words. And it hasn't been easy, but it has been worth it. And I hope that when you look back over the incredible work that you've done this school year, that you'll believe the same. Have a great week. Have a great summer. I'll connect with you in the extended bonus episode in June.